what? I'm going to be bold. But right in the middle of it, he drops this thing in about strongholds that keep them from knowing God. Could it be that they had certain things operating in their minds and in their hearts that kept them from knowing God? And because they refused to know God like that, they actually could not receive apostolic blessing in their church because they resisted the knowledge of God. Now, we're going to look at this very closely tonight. So I want you to stay with me if you would, and we're going to deal with these issues in our life. Strongholds. Let's talk about strongholds. The word strongholds for just a minute. It literally means a holding place, or another way it's translated is a castle. Of course, this building, most of the perimeter of this building is built with cinder block or breeze block. Wherever you come from, you'll call it different things. And this whole building right here, the thing you sat in tonight is built with these very blocks right here. Now, let me ask you, if a storm came over tonight, would you sense a sense of protection in this building? Yes, you would, because you're inside, you feel protected, you feel that there's strength here. Now, we're not talking about a good stronghold tonight. We're talking about a bad one, okay? We're talking about arguments and pretensions that get built up, and we're going to talk more about that in a second. But I want you to understand that there comes things that get built into our life generationally. There are things that get built into our life through the wounding of others. There's things that get built into our life from even our own rebellion. That went over great. There's things that get built into our life from the wounding of others, from all this stuff can get built in. And all of a sudden, arguments and pretensions get set up. And what we don't realize is they get built up in our lives, and they actually keep us from knowing God. The blocks of this stronghold, the blocks of this thing that keeps you from God is built by certain things. And let's look at those things for just a moment. I want you to see a stronghold tonight, and write this down if you're a note taker, that it's a fortress built out of thoughts. It's a fortress built into your soul. This is my opinion, and you can like it or dislike it, okay? Wise or otherwise. I actually believe that sometimes the enemy so builds strongholds into our life that he actually doesn't even have to bother with us. He so builds systems of thinking and arguments and pretensions in our life that actually he knows that we've got this running in our life that keeps us from knowing God. Now, what did it say? It said that these things what? That they set themselves up against the knowing of God. So the purpose of these things is to keep you from knowing God. Okay? Now, we're talking about being a house of His presence, being a house of revival, being a Bethel, being a prophetic apostolic house. But how many of you know if we're trapped behind things that keep us from knowing God, we'll never be able to enter into that because we're sitting behind us. And I believe the enemy builds this into our life so that we are kept from knowing God. Now, I want to show you a couple things. Some of the ways that these come to your life. And let's look at these really quickly before we move on. The first word here is arguments. And the NIV translates it arguments. What does the King James translate it? Does anybody have a King James? I'm sorry? Oh, man. Imaginations, right? Thank you. Okay. I'm trying to help us here tonight. Imaginations. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Is that Alice back there? Yes, it is. Okay. Thank you, Miss Alice. Casting down what? Imaginations and every high thing. In the NIV translates arguments. Here it's imaginations. Now, I want you to see something for just a minute. It means to compute something or to have a judgment and a decision. Now, I want you to see what happens. Now, remember, these things can come to us a lot of ways. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But there are certain things that come to us where we make a computing in our heart and in our mind. And when we do that, we actually lay a block on the foundation of that stronghold in our lives. So let's say that Mike comes up to me, slaps me around the face. Okay? Says, "You deserve it, boy. Been waiting to do that for years." Okay? And so automatically he does that to me. And I compute. Mike is an elder. Mike is a jerk. Okay? Mike just slapped me around the face. Now, you know I'm kidding tonight, all right? Somebody said, hopefully. I'm kidding. I love Mike, all right? Intensely, okay? And I compute in my mind. And I say, this is what he did to me. Now, this can apply to any realm of life. Now, just listen to me. And an argument starts to build up in my mind. You know what? Mike's an elder. All elders are jerks. All elders will hurt you. All elders will be mean to you. And I set in my life a foundation that says, I'm going to have an argument, and it'll keep me from knowing God. Now, let's say that I've got this argument with me, and I come into the presence of God. Lord, I'm going to seek your face today. What's that you're holding? I've rendered a judgment, Lord. Mike's a jerk. Come on. And God, I'll just hold on to this for a little while I seek your face, while I want to know you. And guys, it'll never happen because you're holding on to something that will keep you from knowing God. And you'll build it into your life. Now, the second word there, first word's imagination, computation. Sounds good. That sounds smart, right? I'm not that smart. Trust me. The second word in the NIV translated pretensions. If you have a King James, it'll say high places. And that's what it literally means, an elevated place or a barrier. Now understand, guys, that we'll build areas of our life up so that we can protect ourselves. Now, I want to show you something that happens, though, through these arguments, through these pretensions. And it can come to us so easily, much easily than we ever imagined. And we build these things up. We set them up block by block. Bitterness, rage, lust, fear of man, fear of failure, identity issues. We can build it up and build it up and build it up. And suddenly we find ourselves, we've built them up for our protection, but the very thing that we've built for our protection, we actually find ourselves prisoner in the inside of this fortress that we thought was going to protect us. And actually what it's doing is causing you to be a prisoner and keeping you from knowing God, keeping you from becoming what God destined you to be.